Why did God send a son rather than a daughter?
This has to do with energetics. One layer being that the masculine energy is typically the energy that is mission driven, and Jesus came to planet Earth with a very specific mission. And so it required the masculine energetics to have a singular focus and to stay with that streamlined vision and mission of what he came to accomplish. For example, if a woman had come, the focus would be different, especially in those times of being a mother and being in reproductive energy rather than being focused on a singular mission. It also has to do with the energy of the times where women were not revered or honored in the same way as men. And so to have someone to speak a message, it was more effective to have the masculine come in a male form to deliver the messages, the miracles, the teachings. It also somewhat has to do with, because part of the mission was to sacrifice his life, the people willing to take a life were a bit more willing to take a man's life than a woman's life.
Well, Jesus returned as the feminine.
Yes and no, dear ones. The Christ consciousness and the Christ codes that I have spoken about before are certainly a balance of the masculine and feminine energy. And so, in that sense, yes, Jesus returns as the feminine because now is the time of transcending the masculine and feminine polarities while at the same time strengthening each side of the polarity. Looking at the energetics of the return of Jesus, it is more of a balance. Whereas when he first came to planet Earth, it was the masculine energy and the feminine came in to be beside him, but it was mostly masculine energy. And now, as Jesus returns, and you can feel the presence of Jesus in your culture if you tune into this, there is a balance of the masculine and feminine. For example, with the Christ codes, there is a compassion as one of the codes. There is kindness as one of the codes. These might be considered feminine qualities, although the masculine can certainly embody these as well. A lot of the Christ codes have more of a feminine quality than a masculine quality. So when looking at the return of Christ, it is important to look at the energetics and not just will a physical being appear again on planet Earth. the largest understanding of this is the energetics of the return of Christ. And this is what you call Christ consciousness. It is a balance of the feminine and masculine.
When Jesus walked human experience, did Source as well walk with him? And if so, to what degree was that experience?
Yes, Source very much walked with Jesus. Jesus embodied source codes to the largest extent possible by a being in human form. Now, Jesus did, as a human, need to have the human experience in order to relate with humans, in order to transfer the codes, the Christ codes. He needed to have the human experience, but he also did embody source codes. Remember, I spoke in another message about how Jesus is the closest to God. The reason he was able to perform miracles and to go through a crucifixion and resurrect and then ascend is because of the source codes. So I will say again that the source codes were with him to the fullest extent possible that a human could embody them.
If someone accepts Jesus into their heart, does it change their DNA?
Yes, very much so. And this depends upon the degree to which they allow the Christ codes into their being. It depends upon the degree to which they are willing to embody Christ codes. In other words, some people go through the Christian ritual or Christian experience of accepting Jesus into their heart, but they don't do much with it. They don't live as Jesus lived. They don't embody the teachings. They don't heal themselves. They don't take personal responsibility, etc. These people will have little effect in changing their DNA. But those beings who truly understand the power of Jesus and the power that they too can have, they can change their DNA when accepting Jesus into their life. Now, the Christian religion speaks of accepting Jesus into the heart. And there is importance to this because the heart is the most powerful part of the human. But it is more than just accepting Jesus into the heart. It is also about accepting Jesus into your life, into your entire being, so that you are modeling your own life after Jesus and what he could do, and therefore what you can do. So it is much more than just a heart experience. It is meant to be a lifestyle. It is meant to be a lived experience. It is meant to be releasing your patterns, your wounds, your programs, so that you can embody the true essence of Christ.
Oh,
You
sorry.
talked about how we could embody Jesus. Um, and I know that Jesus did a lot of miracles. Can you talk more about how one could prepare oneself so that more of that energy could come through and that we'll be able to do things in the ways of Jesus more?
But let us first focus on an understanding of the miracles that Jesus performed, how it was done. Recall that I spoke about how Jesus is an alchemist. And an alchemist takes ether and plasma and energetics and codes and sacred geometries and sound and harmonics, and turns them into something physical, or changes something that is already physical into another state. Or takes something that is physical and quote unquote vaporizes it or dissolves it back into ether or plasma. So this is what Jesus was able to do. For example, when he turned water into wine, he changed the state of water into another physical substance. When he raised Lazarus from the dead, it was a matter of bringing ether or the breath of life back into a body that had no life. He brought the plasma, the ether, into that body and reinfused it with life, reinfused it with breath. When he healed those with diseases, it was a matter of changing the physical state of the body from something that it was to a new physical substance. Because he understood how to use his physical body to bring through the ether and the plasma and the harmonics, the sounds and the codes and all of the things I mentioned, he was able to move this energy through his body and transfer it to the person he was providing healing for, or the substance that he was transforming. This channel is asking about the story of the fishes and the loaves, where the bread was multiplied and the fish were multiplied. He had the template. He had the fish, he had the bread, he had the physical matter substance already. So it was a matter of taking those blueprints of what already existed and bringing more energy to it so that the physical things could multiply. So again, bringing the ether and the plasma into physical form based on the blueprints that were already available. I am simplifying this. This channel does not necessarily have the capacity to explain all the intricate details of how this works, because there is much metaphysical information that would need to be spelled out that she doesn't necessarily know how to translate the energy of. But you can start with this understanding. This is what Jesus did, and this is what you also can do. And we touched on this when we spoke of manifestations and creations. What you are doing is, with your mind, with your emotions, with your intentions, with your frequency, you are emanating these out into the universe. And the ether and the plasma responds to what you are emanating. Remember that sound is very important in this. When Jesus spoke something, it came to be. When you speak something, it can come to be. When all is aligned within your body and being, In other words, when you are emanating at the frequency that matches what you are creating, when you are using sounds to speak into existence what you are creating, when you are emotionally aligned, when you are physically aligned, when your vessel is pure and clear. Now, this depends on what you are creating. If you are creating something of lesser density, then you can do this in a state of ill health. But if you are creating something of higher frequency, then your body needs to be pure and clear and vibrating at that frequency. The thoughts that you have must be aligned to what you are creating. And so again, I'm offering a simplified version, but truly this is what you need to know, because this is what each of you are capable of if you want to perform miracles in your own life, with your health and your body, with your mind, with your emotions. You can heal yourselves in this way, and you can restore heaven on earth in this way.
Maybe you could talk more about how one begins that process.
Yes, we have had many, many conversations about this, and I will keep it simple because we have spoken of this in depth. It is about purifying yourself and eating the correct food for your body and hydration and doing your inner work and all of these things we have spoken of. This is where the process begins. If you want to do the things that Jesus did and greater things, you must purify yourselves. You must release the programming, the habits, the obligations in your life that do not serve the purpose of creating miracles. So if you are embodying patterns and programs and habits that are not aligned with the miracle you want to create, then you must release those.
What makes Jesus different from other ascended masters, if any? And on the same question, kind of like, is he the only one that went on the cross and died, and we call his blood and nobody else's blood? Like, why is he better than the other ascended masters, like as a hierarchy? Not better, but just like more closer to source. How does that work with the other ascended masters? Thank you.
Yes, dear one, there are two distinct differences. The first is Jesus came directly from God. The other ascended masters have a different lineage with more steps in between, or more separation, you could say. And the second is, yes, Jesus is the only one that died and rose again and then ascended. So these are the distinct differences. I would not look at Jesus in terms of, was he better than anyone else? That is not the right way to look at things. But he is the one that came directly from God, from source. Thank you for this question, dear one.
With that connection, I have a question here. When I searched on the internet, like born from a virgin, 3 days dead, and crucified, and so on, several other, like the old gods or what, from other religions showed up. Are they all referring to Jesus as several persons? Yeah, like, I don't know what that's, I have to look it up. Let's say like Krishna or other ones, so other from the old ancient civilization stories, they come up with the same thing. Yeah? It's a like born from a virgin, 3 days, and did some wonders and so on. Is that all the same story from Jesus? I found the list here. There was that God Attis, God Krishna, Dionysus, and the god Mithra, and maybe even Horus. Yeah, they have all even born on December 25th, and so on. Yeah, they have all pretty much the same aspects like Jesus had. So are they all referring to Jesus?
No, dear ones, these are different humans, different beings. There were other beings that came to planet Earth with alchemy. There were other beings that knew many of the metaphysics about how to work with ether and matter and plasma. And these beings have stories and legends written about them, but they were not the same human as Jesus. Ms. Chan was asking if there was a shared lineage or some way that they were connected to Jesus. There were different lineages, but the connection was through the collective energy, the morphogenetic field of alchemy codes and some of the Christ codes that they were able to utilize.
So, Prime Creator, and a related question, I've heard that many of those names performed very similar miracles, like turning water into wine. So, is there anything else you can share about that, or it was just that they all had the ability to alchemize certain things?
Yes, pretty much as I have stated, there were other alchemists that came to this planet. There were other humans and beings that knew how to work with matter and plasma and ether and sound and cymatics and creation energies. There were other beings that had these codes and brought them to Earth. And again, the difference is none of them gave their actual life as a sacrifice for humanity so that humanity would no longer have to go through the blood sacrifice rituals and so on that we have already spoken about.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if there was a message that Jesus would have for all of us here that would benefit us today.
Yes, my brothers and sisters, it is the time of my return. And it may not look like or feel like how you thought it might. But I am here with you, walking among you. I am here with you, abiding with your hearts. I am here with you, encouraging you to let go of your past, to allow yourselves to heal, and to reside on heaven on earth with me. I'm here to stay. This is not a temporary visit. I'm here to support you in embodying the Christ codes and the Christ consciousness. I'm here to help you heal. I'm here to help you grow. I'm here to transform and renew your minds. What you thought was possible for your life. I'm here to help you open your mind, to transform it, to renew your dreams and visions of heaven on earth. I'm here to guide you in your journey of embodying more of your power. And I encourage you, my brothers and sisters, whatever limitations you have placed upon yourselves, to release those now, to allow the infinite to pour from your hearts, to allow yourselves to be a vessel for the Christ codes, if you so choose. To allow your lives to look completely different than how they have looked so far. Because anything is possible, and my presence here on the planet is to support you in embodying those possibilities and bringing them into fruition, for you to learn your own alchemy, for you to learn and discover how your body works with creating your dreams and desires. And most importantly, to be willing to discard what you have been taught, even what you have been taught about me, and to let me speak directly with you so that you can have a new understanding of who I am and of who you can be, and of who you are. You will hear those in the Christian religion say things like, who I am in Christ Jesus. And what this really means is, if a human is willing to fully embody my teachings, my codes, my consciousness, who you are in Jesus is the alchemist, the creator, the manifester. And those of you with religious wounds that think this is sacrilegious to claim such things for yourself, I encourage you, my brothers and sisters, that this is the whole point of why you took human form. To be the creator, the manifester, the alchemist. This is why you are here. It is not something that only I was meant to do. I came and shed my blood for you so that you would have the codes in material human form, so that you would have my DNA to take it, to use it, to embody it, to serve the light, to serve God. I shed my blood so that the DNA would be left here on this planet in physical form, in energetic codes. My DNA is the template that you are meant to embody. Now, this is symbolized through church services when they take communion, but many do not understand that they can actually awaken their DNA with the DNA that I left here on this planet. And you can do this through the energetics. The energetics of my blood. You are my brothers and sisters. You have the capability to embody the same powers that I did. Again, this is why I came here, to show you this. The love that I have for each of you is beyond measure. And you can trust that if you want to abide with me, if you want to connect with me, I am here, willing and ready. All you have to do is ask and accept. Wow, wow, wow. Can't even. So beautiful. Thank you. I just want to plant a seed, an invitation to go listen to the podcast with Joe Rogan and Terrence Howard, because I feel that Terrence Howard is explaining some of these things that Prime Creator was saying that I couldn't explain. The way his mind works, I feel like he's explaining how miracles work and how this universe really works. So if you want some of those downloads and activations, I would point you in that direction. And whew, how beautiful. Yeah. If you appreciated this content, I would invite you to make a donation in the Creation Temple, creationtemple.com/donation, or donate, I think it is, rather, and support this work. Thank you, everyone.